Why do you think you've done so well and Labour's vote, as you say, has collapsed? Lots of confidence in the Labour Party. No one knows what the Prime Minister really stands for. Our sense that somehow in this very patriotic constituency, the Labour Party doesn't really stand for those values anymore. Our sense from working people whose alarm clocks go off at 5 o'clock in the morning that they're paying ever more taxes and they wonder why. But I promise you that the fact there are 750 young men who've illegally crossed the English Channel living in this constituency alone, it's a sense of fairness and what's right and what's wrong, bordering, I would say, even on resentment, and we pick that up very strongly on the doors for people who voted Labour for all of their lives. What's your reflection of the results across the country, mayor elections, local government elections and so on? Well, some near misses in mayoral contests, but in old Labour areas, North Tyneside, Doncaster, we missed out by cigarette paper on both of those. We are smashing into the Labour vote in many parts of the North. Durham tomorrow will be the acid test of how much we fit into Labour. But Lincolnshire and Staffordshire show you that in the Labour Party is facing a full-blown crisis after a devastating election defeat, one of the worst in its history. The shock waves are being felt across Westminster. Things hit a boiling point when Labour Party chair Ellie Reeves appeared on LBC with Nick Ferrari. As he pressed her on why the party lost so badly, she struggled to respond. Her reply: "People want change, but the change voters crave is Labour out of power." So, how did it all fall apart for Labour? Let's take a closer look. Reform very much the story of the night as we expected. Won that by-election by just 6 votes. So, that is a serious defeat for Labour. Starmer failing his first electoral test, and elsewhere they are picking up council seats a lot. The Tories down at 50 at the moment. So a poor night for them. Labour just about holding, and that seems to be the theme of the night too. They have however held on to those mayoralties in Doncaster, North Tyneside and the west of England despite some really serious opposition from Reform. They are doing very well in second place there and have taken of course their first mayoral. Other patterns we're seeing apart from the teal tidal wave that we have very much seen tonight. Those huge swings to Reform. Fascinating stuff. And you just heard from a very happy Nigel Farage this morning. Reform are taking seats now off both Labour and the Conservatives. They are no longer just the party which is eating into Kemi Benodog's vote. They are now a headache for both K-Star and Kemi Benog. So that is also going to be a real threat to the chances of a majority for any political party at the next election. If the polls continue like this, we are on course for a hung parliament. Of course, it's very early to be making any of these predictions, but it just goes to show exactly what is going to be done here now. Nigel Farage beamed as he held up 6 fingers to the cameras. A cheeky gesture marking his party's razor-thin victory. 6 votes might not sound like much, but it was enough for Reform UK to snatch the seat of Runcorn and Helsby, just outside Liverpool, from Labour's long-standing grip. Once considered one of Labour's safest strongholds, the seat flipped in a stunning upset that sent shock waves through both major parties. In a night filled with surprising results, Reform's win showed they aren't just making noise, they're starting to look like a serious threat to the political establishment. Before we continue, tell us, are you enjoying the video so far? If the answer is yes, please take a moment to like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now, let's get back to it. I'm not sure there's any suggestion of that at all. Isn't it just a matter of tactical voting, which is something that's happened particularly between Labour and Liberal Democrat voters for a long time? That's just how the voting system works in first past the post, isn't it? Well, look, I just think that, you know. There needs to be a bit of honesty about it. You know, Robert Jr. made these comments that seem to be a lot more than just about tactical voting. It was talking about an electoral pact, a coalition of some kind. that's very different just for our tactical voting, for example. How do you explain away what's happened? I mean, you can't blame it all on the Conservatives or on Mike Amesbury, the former Labour MP for Ron and Helsby, can you? Because even where you've won mayoral elections, you've lost so much support and it's ended up being a pretty tight race. What that seems to indicate is surely that the government is not addressing a lot of the issues that ordinary people up and down the country have got concerns about. When we were elected to government last July, we were elected on a platform of change. And I recognize that people are impatient for change. I'm impatient for that change. The government's impatient for that change. Since coming into government, we have started to deliver on our plan for change. It takes time. You know, NHS waiting lists are down 6 months in a row, but there are still too many people on waiting lists. Take Run-On for example. Just last month, we delivered 4 new free breakfast clubs in primary schools. Well, we want to go further and faster. We want every primary school in Runghorn to have a free breakfast club. Just last month, the increase in the national minimum wage means that 3.5 million low-paid workers are getting a pay rise. But what mattered most about the recent election wasn't just the numbers. It was a clear sign that Reform UK isn't just a fringe group of agitators. No matter how much Keir Starmer might want to paint them that way, yet the response from Labour so far, especially to the losses in Run and Helsby, has felt strangely muted, almost disconnected. There's been little acknowledgement of the deep frustration and disillusionment that many lifelong Labour supporters are feeling after 10 months of the party in government. At one time, we talked about the importance of emotional intelligence in politics. What we're seeing now, sadly, is a striking absence of it. Well, I think what the voters up and down the country, particularly in Labour heartlands, are saying we'd actually like to change the government and let's have a general election, because this is a staggering collapse of a government in just 10 months. This seat that we've just won is the equivalent of winning Hackney South from Diane Abbott, right? That's the sort of context we're talking about here. And voters have basically rejected the other lies of the Labour Party. And they've essentially sort of put even deeper into the bin the Tory Party. And people are raging, absolutely raging mad about national issues, the 34,000 odd illegals that have crossed the channel since Labour took control. The fact that legal immigration is still completely out of control as well, and people are getting poorer. Net stupid zero is, it's coming to fore, and the unions are now backing reform on net zero. Tony Blair is backing reform on net zero. So look, we're winning all over the place and we're watching something powerful unfold. People are no longer settling for empty promises. They want honesty. They want to be heard. For many lifelong Labour supporters, there's a deep sense of betrayal. It's not just that their voices are being ignored. It's that the government under Starr and Reeves is making choices they never expected from a Labour leadership. Choices that feel completely out of step with what the party is supposed to stand for. Just months ago, Labour seemed like a beacon of hope after years of Conservative austerity. But now, to many, this government doesn't even feel like Labour at all. And that's not about old Labour versus new Labour. It's about whether it's Labour in any meaningful sense anymore. Of why Labour lost those key red wall seats. Well, Julia, let's just say first of all losing 300 councillors and several other significant elections this weekend. There are no reasons to be optimistic. As some in the Labour Party have said, gaining chipping Norton and losing the North is not something to be optimistic about. It's been a disaster, and the reason this has happened, I think the umbilical cord between the Labour Party and its traditional vote was severed when we came out for a second referendum back in 201,617, which I think we probably discussed at the time. UNSEC Labour's strategy under Starmer seems to have been to neutralise Reform UK by moving closer to Farage's positions, especially on immigration. The thinking was mimic Reform, win some breathing space, then invest in public services and win big at the next election. The hope was that economic growth with a bit of tax tweaking would pay for it all, but this backfired quickly. Local election results showed voters weren't buying it. If Labour tries to imitate Reform, many will just choose the real thing. At the same time, traditional Labour supporters were dismayed by the party's rightward shift, especially on immigration. To make matters worse, the expected economic growth didn't materialise. That left borrowing or wealth redistribution as the only options, both awkward under Labour's self-imposed fiscal rules. Instead, Starmer's team made cuts to things like winter fuel allowance, national insurance, and disability benefits. These decisions hurt the very people Labour has long claimed to stand for. Disillusioned voters responded not by backing Labour, but by voting for change elsewhere. And while party members, or MPs, might once have flagged these warning signs, Labour's centralised control shut down internal debate. MPs who speak out risk losing the whip. Now, the party looks like it's not only lacking a clear strategy, but also a moral compass vulnerable groups while trying to outreform Reform. And voters are noticing. It's time for Labour members and MPs to speak up. Not just to rethink the party's strategy, but to reconnect with the grassroots and avoid alienating their supporters again. A powerful first step would be to scrap the proposed cuts to disability benefits and start listening to the public. Labour's poor showing in Thursday's elections wasn't a surprise. It's been a long time coming. With multi-party politics now a reality in the UK, we could be seeing the start of a major political shift. In response to the defeat, Prime Minister Starmer blamed Nigel Farage for offering easy answers and promised to push harder for change, insisting he won't make excuses. Farage, meanwhile, is celebrating big wins. His Reform Party now leads in 10 councils and is the biggest party in 4 more, with new mayors in Greater Lincolnshire and Hull and East Yorkshire. But now comes the hard part. Showing what they'll do with that power. Farage has floated the idea of creating a UK version of Trump's Doge, a government efficiency unit designed to slash public spending. Speaking after Reform's win in Durham, he warned council workers focused on climate Delaware the first or remote work to rethink their roles. His pitch: cut waste, review contracts, reduce government size, and focus on basics like social care and fixing potholes. When questioned about Reform's inexperienced councillors, Deputy Leader Richard Tye called it an advantage. He admitted mistakes would happen, but promised honesty and a fresh common-sense approach free from party baggage. Why do you think you've done so well and Labour's vote, as you say, has collapsed? Loss of confidence in a Labour Party, and no one knows what the Prime Minister really stands for. A sense that somehow in this very patriotic constituency, the Labour Party doesn't really stand for those values anymore. A sense from working people whose alarm clocks go off at 5 o'clock in the morning that they're paying ever more taxes and they wonder why. But I promise you that the fact there are 750 young men who've illegally crossed the English Channel living in this constituency alone, it's a sense of fairness and what's right and what's wrong, bordering, I would say, even on resentment, and we picked that up very strongly on the doors for people who voted Labour for all of their lives. What's your reflection of the results across the country, mayoral elections, local government elections and so on? Well, some near misses in mayoral contests, but in old Labour areas, North Tyneside, Doncaster, we missed out by cigarette paper on both of those. We are smashing into the Labour vote in many parts of the North. Durham tomorrow will be the acid test of how much we fit into Labour. But Lincolnshire and Staffordshire show you that in areas the Conservatives have always run, we're making massive progress there, too. So, it's a phenomenal night for us. What's your message for Saki Starmer and also the Kemok? Kemi Bono, please stay. I mean, please don't resign. We want you to stay on as leader. I'll put some money in if you'd like to keep you there. Now, she's got an impossible job. The Conservative Party is split. And what you'll see tomorrow as the West Country results come in is you'll see a stack of 2021 Conservative votes will have come to us. At the end of the day, Reform UK's showing in the election sends a clear message to Labour. Things haven't exactly gone smoothly since they took the reins in Westminster. If Labour wants to avoid another public meltdown from its leadership, it might be time to stop lobbing insults at Reform and their voters and start listening to what people want. If you're enjoying this political roller coaster, don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe for more sharp takes and fresh perspectives.